Let's break down Texas A&M's wide receiver depth chart and have the discussion. Should we have concerns depth-wise?
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into Locked On Aggies. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Make every moment more as playoffs wind down. The sports stop sporting like we want them to. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. We are continuing our series, ladies and gentlemen, as you everydayers know, breaking down our offensive position groups, our offensive rooms here. We'll get to defense later in the week, later down the road. But ladies and gentlemen, we are getting closer to the beginning of the football season. The Notre Dame Fighting Irish are coming to town soon, and I'm excited. I know y'all are too, but getting right into it. Y'all everydayers, like I said, know that I have some concerns with Texas A&M's depth of wide receiver. I like the players in this room. Last year, it was a weird year with Moose Muhammad. He was in and out of the lineup, but we never really knew what was going on with him. Noah Thomas is in and out of the lineup. You had Evan Stewart now with Oregon, but, was with the Aggies last year and was in and out of the lineup. You had a lot of talented players in and out of the lineup. And, it was one of those groups where no one ever got settled in because there were always moving parts. There were always players in and out of the lineup due to injury. And then, right after that, this season, you go get some players in the portal. You go get a guy in Jabri Barber, who I was really high on, and then he gets hurt. Still not really much of an update on his injury status. I mean, you got to hope that he's maybe able to get back at some point in the season, but that surgery wasn't too long ago, so I don't know if you're going to see him on the field. It's going to be interesting. We'll get an answer to that question soon. But looking at the depth of this wide receiver room, the question mark is you have some great players that are going to start for you. And you have some great players in the two deep, but those great players are extremely inexperienced. And that is what I'm worried about. That is where my concern lies, ladies and gentlemen, is the fact that you have talent in this room, top to bottom, but a lot of guys who haven't played a lot of football. Are they going to be ready if their number is called and you say, hey, get in the football game. We need you to play, because, but once again, we play the what if game a lot because you have to. But at the end of the day, it would be really ideal if Janae Walker, Moose Muhammad, and Noah Thomas could just stay on the field. If they could stay on the field, that would be great. But we have to remember the reality of the game that we all love. It's football. You see injuries all the time. Players are going to get banged up. You're going to see guys miss weeks here and there. Stuff's going to happen. And, the other day, I talked about the depth at these different positions, all the different positions. And I talked about, here's where I have concern. I don't have concern here. And as you everydayers know, wide receiver was one of those positions where I said, I'm a little concerned depth-wise here. But, I think so we got some comments and people were saying, I'm not really worried about the depth. To me, it's not the depth. I don't think you're going to get to a point where you're running out of wide receivers. I think the concern is that some of these guys just haven't played a lot of football. And whether they're freshmen like Isaiah Williams or whatever the issue is. I mean, you got Micah Tease, who hasn't played a lot of football. Obviously, he was there last year, but wasn't on the field a ton. You bring Bostic in from the transfer portal, another guy who there's upside there, but he hasn't played a lot. It's funny because I can't decide if I should label this as a concern for myself or if I should label it as a question mark when it comes to this wide receiver room. I think it's more of a question mark than a concern. Because here's the deal. If you play the game of, hey, well, everyone's going to stay healthy, everyone's going to be on the field, you have a great wide receiver room. Noah Thomas is ready to explode onto the scene. Ja'Day Walker was great last year. A D2 guy, you never would have really expected him to do what he did, and then he was incredible. And then you bring in some of these transfers. You bring in some of these guys to come in here, Cyrus Allen, Bostic. You bring in some guys to come help in this room. And the room looks good to where I don't know. It's more of a, if some players, so Cyrus Allen, once again, to be fair, has played a lot of football. He's your most experienced player that probably won't be in the starting lineup. And if he's the first off the bench, he's a really good player with a ton of upside. A guy who, obviously at La Tech last year, we saw he had a great year. I want to pull up his actual full-on, season stats. But, he was a guy that when he came in, I wasn't as excited about Allen as I was Debris Barber, but I was still excited. So Allen last year, 46 catches, 778 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Like, that'll play. We're not going to sit here and act like that's not great. And the best thing about Cyrus Allen is the fact that he's only played 2 years of football. In 2022, 500 yards, 4 receptions, 4 touchdowns, excuse me. And then last year, about near 800 yards and 4 touchdowns. He's got more experience, more football to play in front of him. And that's exciting. I talk about in the transfer portal that there are the rentals and there are the guys that you want there long term. And players that are the rentals are those guys that you bring in for 1 year and they're maybe not going to have a huge role. They might have a smaller role, and they're players that they come in just to add depth and they're there for 1 year and they're gone. But then you also have the players that are maybe there long term, like a guy like Cyrus Allen, who's got multiple years of eligibility left. And you never know, maybe one of these receivers that is going to be your starters this year, maybe they head on to the NFL and Cyrus Allen is a really good player for your team next year. So, I think Cyrus Allen definitely makes me feel a little bit better about this room. But when you look at the wide receiver room top to bottom, you definitely have to go, okay, whoa, there's a little bit, like I said, I don't know if I'd say concern because it's not concern, but there's a little bit, if a few things don't go our way here, we could be in trouble. And that's kind of the way I look at it. If you stay healthy, this is one of the better wide receiver rooms in the SEC, I think. I think, Walker, Thomas, and Muhammad are great players. But the depth is where it becomes concerning to me. Micah Tease is a guy I really like. Isaiah Williams, the freshman, is a great player who is going to be really good, but he's not ready, I don't think, yet. Micah Tease is a guy who I think him and Cyrus Allen coming off the bench could be really good. Tease, we didn't see a ton of him last year, but he's a solid player out of high school, highly ranked guy who could come in and be really good. So, final thoughts on this wide receiver room. It's pretty interesting to me, this room. I think it's one of the more interesting rooms on the team, right up there with linebacker and offensive line. But it's a room that has a high ceiling and a low floor. And, there's not much of an in-between. I think if you stay healthy, you hit that ceiling. If you get really banged up and some inexperienced players have to come in, that is when we start to see problems. So I'm excited about this room. I'm excited to re-unleash Moose and to see what Noah Thomas can do. Who's going to end up being the guy? Could it be Walker, Thomas, Muhammad? It's going to be one of them. But who's going to end up being? We're going to find that out. And I'm really excited to find that out. So, yes, this is a great room, top to bottom, with talent. The experience is where the question comes. But I do believe that this Texas A&M wide receiver room is going to get the job done, and they're going to be able to get open downfield for quarterback Connor Wigman. An article came out from our friends over at Aggies Wire that I disagree with when it comes to the depth of the tight end room. We're going to talk about that coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But I got to tell you about our friends over at FanDuel. I love sports. I love them so much, I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games and the sports aren't sportsing like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball, and of course, the Locked On Podcast Network. So to get quickly into this tight end room. So we're going to talk about an article written on Aggies Wire. And, you know, I want to first say, so, Cameron, who writes his articles, is someone I read his stuff all the time. Cameron over at Aggies Wire, great writer, really like his stuff. This is one where I disagree with him a little bit on the depth of the tight end room. You know, I have a few disagreements there. And once again, I wouldn't say, and I want to clarify, what I do for a living, sometimes you got to disagree with people. And I disagree a little bit here, and I want to share. So let's run through what Cameron, has the depth chart as for the tight end room. So fifth, he has Trey Watson. The little blurb here says, Trey Watson enters the program with significant hype after his impressive final season with Fresno State. Still, after adding weight this offseason, the senior's receiving prowess could take a backseat to his blocking impact in the run game. Overall, Watson's experience and versatility make him the player to beat heading into fall camp. So, I find that really, really interesting there because I think it's got to be Donovan Green as the dude. And Green is next on this list with a little blurb here saying, adding more than 20 pounds this offseason, Donovan Green is nearly 100% healthy, according to early reports, and he should be good to go this fall after missing the 23 season with a torn ACL. While a solid camp could easily vault him to the top of the depth chart, it will likely take some time for Green to get back in the groove, but never doubt this young man's demeanor. Then we go to Shane Calhoun, the transfer from ECU. He says a sneaky addition from the transfer portal. Former East Carolina tight end Shane Calhoun can stretch the seam when healthy, bring soft hands and impressive route running to a team in need of a proven receiving options. Look for Calhoun to stand out during fall camp. Then Garrett Miller, another intriguing name to watch this fall from Purdue, is former Purdue tight end Garrett Miller, is one tough hombre. Brings a lot of versatility to the table, a complete athlete, and Miller was a go-to target for Boilermakers last season. As Purdue tight end coach Seth Dogue praised Miller last spring, saying he's an absolute freak from a skill set level, speed, strength, and blocking, and the run game could easily bolster Miller's place on the depth chart this fall. Then last is Theo. Is this the year that Theo finally breaks out? Possibly. Adding 15 pounds this offseason is a trend as the tight end position becomes an even more important in the run game under Colin Klein, providing Ostrom more play time in the two tight end sets. So what I disagree with here is, y'all know my take on Donovan Green. And then the other thing I disagree with is not having Jaden Platt. I think I would have Jaden Platt above Theo on this list. I don't know where I would have him, because here's the problem, and it's a really good problem, and I talk about this every time I talk about the tight end room. There are a lot of really solid options. All three of these transfers, Calhoun, Miller, and Watson, I think are really good players. And if they were thrown in the lineup, I feel good about them. the issue here I have is that I think that Platt is a really good player too. So I'd probably throw Platt on this list above Theo. And then I think after that, like, I'm fine having Watson where he does to start the year because I get where he's coming from. He's saying, because, like I said, he did say Watson experience versatility make him the player to beat heading into fall camp. I don't disagree with that. I don't dislike that take. What I don't agree with is, so yeah, I want to state this. I don't agree that Platt should be on the list. I think he even above Theo. I know that Theo's a veteran, been around a little bit longer, but I'm still taking Platt there. And I still think Donovan Green heading into the season is going to be the guy. I think he's healthier than this says, and that's just the vibe. I mean, he was out there moving around, doing stuff really well at, a few months ago in spring ball. So I don't, when I look at that, I mean, when was that? You've had a handful of months to get more healthy. I think he's been able to start cutting, been able to start moving. I don't think Donovan Green's going to have as much issue getting into the flow of things. So that's kind of where I lean in this room. And that's the only thing I have any issues with. Where Miller and Calhoun are ranked, I'm fine with that. Veterans, I get it. I would have Platt above Theo. And then I think that Green heads into the season as the guy. I really don't think it's going to take him as much time to get back into the flow of things as some might say. And Watson is a great player, but when tight ends, there's lots of different types of tight ends. There's your guys who catch the ball, there's your guys who block, and there's your guys who do both at a high level. I think that this room is full of players who have different skill sets. And once again, that's a great thing to have. I think that this, Watson's a really good pass catcher. The blocking is kind of, so-and-so. I think that Donovan Green is one of those players that he's really good at both things. I think Garrett Miller's a better blocker than he is a pass catcher. I think Calhoun's a great pass catcher. And I think Theo's, once again, a guy who can do it both. I think Platt's a guy who can do it both. But, the key is going to be in Colin Klein's system, you got to have guys blocking, and you got to tight ends that can block really well, and you got to have tight ends that can catch passes really well. And I think when it comes to your pass catchers, this will probably be Watson and Green. Your blockers, probably Theo, Miller. I think that's how it's going to kind of be. So that's my thoughts on this. And no, it's a good article, and it's a fun article because it's really fun to break down this room. Because what this article really said to me was, man, like, there's so many great players in this room that everyone can have a different opinion on the tight end room, and they're all valid because you have so much talent. It's so hard to say this guy above this guy and this guy above this guy. So that's why I enjoyed this article so much, but I just, there's a few spots I would have switched up. But I really am excited to see how this room pans out because I think you got a lot of guys with really high upside. And that's a good thing. It's a good thing to have. It's depth is a great thing to have. We just got done talking about my concerns with the depth at wide receiver. That's why I'm so excited about the upside of the how much depth you have in the tight end room. So someone asked me the other day, they said, Andrew, if you had to make your most confident Texas A&M take for the 2024 season, what would it be? And I'm going to tell you coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I got to tell you about our friends over at Ibotta. Sandals, sunscreen, snacks for the kids. What do these things have in common? You're probably buying a ton again this summer, but don't stress about the cost. Use Ibotta and get cash back on all of your purchases when you stock up on all of your summer essentials. Ibotta is a free app that lets you earn cash back every time you shop. Earn on hundreds of items from groceries to beauty supplies, even toys, so you can make sure you're beating inflation no matter what you're purchasing. Right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 just for trying Ibotta by using the code LOCKEDONCollege when you register. Just go to the App Store or Google Play Store and download the free Ibotta app to start earning cash back and use code LOCKEDONCollege. That's IBOTTA in the Google Play or App Store, and use code Locked On College. Also want to tell you about our friends over at Factor. Warmer, sunnier days are calling. Fuel for them with Factor's no prep, no mess meals. Meet your wellness goals in time for summer thanks to the menu of chef-crafted meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. So no matter how busy you are, you'll always have time to enjoy nutritious, great tasting meals. Make today the day you kickstart a new healthy routine. What are you waiting for? Head to factormeals.com/lockedoncollege50 and use code lockedoncollege50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's code lockedoncollege50 at factormeals.com/lockedoncollege50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. Go check it out. I promise you will not regret it. So I got a really good, I think this is one of my favorite mailbag questions I've ever been asked. And this isn't really a full mailbag, section where I answer a ton of questions. I wanted this to be where this is a really good conversation. I want to talk about this alone. So someone said, Andrew, what is the one take for this Texas A&M football season that you believe the strongest about? And I wrote down a full take here. It says, the Aggies win at least 8 games and they win one maybe they shouldn't. So once again, this isn't a bold take. This is a most confident possible take. So, here's the deal. I don't think that, because that's not bold anyway. I mean, once again, Texas A&M's win total set at 8.5 wins. So literally, I'm saying here they're going to hit the under on their win total, and that's. But winning I've talked about the upside of this Texas A&M team and the chance that you never know, maybe, just maybe they could win 9 football games in year 1 under Mike Elko. And y'all know I fully believe that that's possible and that can happen. But looking at just the reality of college football and how things work, that doesn't always happen. We often see teams not work out or things not work out how maybe we thought it would. And, that could happen here. But I still think if that does happen, that the Aggies win 8 football games. And once again, for them to win one they shouldn't, all that means is they got to beat one of these 4 teams. Texas, LSU, Missouri, or Notre Dame. You win, you go 1-3 in those 4 games, and you've won a game you're probably not supposed to. It is funny that all those games are at home, once again, and that's been one of our most common offseason topics this year. But, at the end of the day, if the Aggies are able to go, I'd say, 8-4, like I said, 1-3 in these games, I think you got to be happy, even though it technically does hit the under. I think you got to be happy with the way that this all works itself out this year in year 1 under Coach Elko. So I feel pretty confident in that. And then, those toss-up games against Auburn and Florida are the ones that are going to really make a difference as well. But that's my most confident take. And once again, not a bold take, because I don't think saying that they're going to win 8 games and win one they shouldn't is crazy bold. But, from now on, if people ask me, Andrew, what is your number 1 bold take for Texas A&M this offseason? That is without a doubt got to be it. That is going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Aggies. Thank y'all so much for being here every single day. Really, really appreciate it. Once again, we are inching closer to 2,000 subscribers on YouTube. So if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. It helps the show a ton. We got a lot of fun stuff coming up. I mean, we're to the point where the season's pretty much 1 month away. So there's a lot of excitement coming up here at Locked On Aggies. So hit that button. Helps the show. Would really appreciate that. And also, we have an interview coming up. When y'all are watching this, I'm going to be interviewing Texas A&M running back commit DeAndre Ryden to talk about some recruiting, talk about what he's been working on, talk about the season. So that will be Wednesday's show. I'm really excited about that. First player interview we've had here on the show. It's going to be fun. Be ready for that one. Everyone have a great rest of your day today, and we will see you tomorrow right here at Locked On Aggies.